the horrific pollution across North India. Delhi woke up to PM 2.5 levels of over 400. Now, those are killer numbers in the long run. And yet every year, and we debate this every year for years on end, nothing is done. It's almost as if people believe they're immune to air pollution. So on today's show, we thought we'd bring you some glaring details, data, how your lifespan is actually going down because of the air pollution that you are breathing. A reminder yet again to our politicians who don't really seem to care. And also, since we like to compare ourselves with China very often to see where we stand vis-a-vis them, the story of how Beijing beat its horrific air pollution, is there actually a lesson in there for us? Let's move on now to our top story, and I regret that this is a subject which many people seem to believe, oh, it goes away, it doesn't really matter, we have to live with it. Because if that's our attitude, then the fact of the matter is that we are going to be living for a shorter period of time. If you think I'm exaggerating, air pollution, and this is not just Delhi or NCR, air pollution across large parts of North India, particularly this time of the year, is a killer. There have been study after study which have actually come out with these glaring details. For example, a Lancet study says there have been 1.6 million premature deaths because of air pollution in 2019 in India. India tops in deaths because of air pollution. Globally, China comes second. In 2019, pollution deaths account for nearly 18% of all deaths in India. Greenpeace has done a report. They've said over 120,000 died because of air pollution in India in 2020. Air pollution caused economic damages of 2 lakh crore rupees in India. Then another study, Greenpeace and IQ Air in 2021, said that 54,000 premature deaths in Delhi in 2020 were because of air pollution. But there are other very credible sources. For example, the University of Chicago has done a study on air pollution in Delhi, and they've said that air pollution is shortening lives by almost a decade, 10 years in Delhi. There's been a Harvard study in 2021. 1/3 of deaths in India every year are because of air pollution. A World Health Organization report, 2021, air pollution causes 7 million premature deaths a year. Globally, it is a known killer, and it certainly affects us in India. One of the countries which faces a crisis as far as air pollution is concerned is China, but they've been fighting back, and Beijing, which was a nightmare, has actually improved. But before I go to that, let me bring you a few details of basically what the impact of air pollution is, how toxic air is killing us. In children, reduced lung growth and function, respiratory infections, aggravated asthma. In adults, heart disease and stroke, respiratory ailments as well, and also chronic lung disease. That's what we are all facing over here. May not hit you today or tomorrow, but it will at these levels. It will hit everyone at these levels. So I was talking about Beijing, which had a crisis, but over a decade they fought back. And how? This is what they've done. Can we do that over here? Well, on your left, New Delhi, our national capital, with air pollution levels spiking to emergency levels. And on your right, Beijing, the Chinese capital, which has fought off its air pollution emergency. How? Well, it's been a 20-year journey involving a mix of politics, technology and economics, a mission that's affected the lives of 21 million residents. Between 1997 and 2017, Beijing saw a 335% growth in the number of cars on the roads and a 73% increase in its population, all at a time when the Chinese economy saw a 1,078% increase in its GDP. But with its economic boom came a smog so thick that it was virtually impregnable, a smog linked not just to more cars, but to the use of coal to fuel a booming population. So here's what they did. Tightened emission standards for all vehicles. Discouraged the purchase of new cars burning fossil fuels by restricting the number of number plates available. Discouraged the flow of truck traffic through the city. Reintroduced bike sharing schemes. Limited the use of coal-fired boilers and enforced emission standards, and repaired damaged ecosystems in and around Beijing by expanding green spaces. The budget for all of this was huge. In 2013, it was $434 million. That went up to $2.6 billion in 2017. The benefits of all of the hard work became clear by the end of 2017, and now annual PM 2.5 concentrations have dropped 35% from 2013. Concentrations of sulfur dioxide have dropped more than 93% from 1998 levels. Similarly, nitrous dioxide fell by nearly 38% in the same period. But the battle hasn't ended. Beijing's concentration of nitrogen dioxide is still above national standards, and ozone pollution in summer is a problem, which is why the city is in the midst of a new air pollution push. The goal to reduce the number of heavy pollution days by 25% from 2015 levels. Vishnu Shom for NDTV. Well, joining us now, Tanushree Ganguly, Programming Lead Counsel on Energy, Environment and Water. Thanks very much for being with us. Dr. S.C.L. Gupta, former MLA of the BJP, a senior BJP leader. Anil Kumar, Principal of Delhi Public School, Faridabad. Dr. Jyoti Gupta, Director of the K.R. Mangalam School in GK2 in Delhi. And Priyanka Kakkar of the Aam Aadmi Party. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us. Tanushree Ganguly, when it comes to Delhi and the cause of the pollution all around us, is it essentially at this time of the year linked to stubble burning, or is that what we like to tell ourselves in the process, looking away from other sources of pollution which are fairly horrific?
It's a little bit of both, Vishnu. So if you look at this situation right now, yes, a significant contribution is really coming from stubble burning. Between 20 to 30% is coming from stubble burning. But what's important to understand here is that this 20 to 30% contribution lasts only for 7 to 10 days, even within the winter period. So when we start analyzing data on air quality and source contributions to Delhi's deteriorating air quality during winters, we look at the period between October and January. Within this period also, the relative contribution of different sources contributing to Delhi's pollution levels changes. So this period, which is, second half of October to early November, is when it's dominated by stubble burning. Beyond that, other sources kick in. What's important to understand here, though, is that a significant contribution to Delhi's pollution, believe it or not, comes from sources which are outside Delhi's limits. So 60% of pollution is the pollution that Delhi generates for itself, and 40% comes from outside. And when I say outside, it's not only stubble burning. It comes from the districts which are bordering Delhi. That's what, multiple models have pointed to, whether it's the air quality early warning system or whether it's the other privately run modeling endeavors. And these sources outside range from industries, brick-ins, to even, peri-urban rural areas, which are now going to rely on firewood or dry leaves for their space heating needs. So it's a combination of sources which impacts air pollution in this region.
Tanushree, isn't it really odd that we've known this for the last decade? What you are saying isn't new at all, and yet we're still over here discussing this. And I think that is the bizarre part of everything. The science is absolutely clear. It's been clear for the longest time. You didn't need to be a rocket scientist to know that this air pollution at PM 2.5 levels of 400 is killing you. And yet here we are.
It's the most disappointing part. It's the most disappointing part, Vishnu, and I absolutely agree. I just want to make one point. What we need to understand right now is that the amount of load in the atmosphere in summers versus the same amount of load in winters has more catastrophic impacts. And this is the most critical element. So while we can get away with a certain amount of load in the atmosphere during summers, in winters that's not possible because of how bad the meteorological condition gets. Yeah. And that's why every possible step to cut down emissions from every possible source has to be taken, particularly during this time of the year.
Let me just go across to Priyanka Kakkar, Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson. Priyanka, I don't want to get into that usual slugfest of the centre versus the Delhi government, but I brought you statistics on this program of what Beijing has done. They ultimately ramped up their spending to several $1 billion in the year 2017 to try and fix their air pollution. It took them more than a decade to fix that. Do you even have half of that budget to fix air pollution in Delhi?
Good evening to everyone, Vishnuji. Vishnuji, I can tell you with full responsibility that Aam Aadmi Party has been consistently working on the issue, and there is data to indicate, I'm not proud of where we are, but there is data to indicate that there has been some marginal improvement. Now see, when it comes to, for example, Punjab, we've set up the biggest bioenergy plant in Punjab recently in Sangrur district. We've only taken over the government in the past 6 months. We've also moved, you will say it's a blame game, but it's a fact. We've also asked the centre to set up a biomass plant because it's a heavy industry. We need their permission. They've rejected it. We've also set aside the subsidy for incentivizing the farmers. We've set aside a subsidy from the budget of Delhi. We've set aside a subsidy from budget of Punjab. But there is a Supreme Court judgment which also says that the Punjab, it's a 2020 judgment. It's right here in front of me. This also says that the government of Punjab, government of Haryana and UP need to prepare a scheme, need to sit together, and we have been consistently writing to them. There is no response. See, what in Delhi, what we have done, we've implemented all the guidelines that the Supreme Court dictated. We have smog machines, we have smog tower, we have grab 3 in process.
But most respectfully, smog towers and smog machines dispersing water isn't going to end this problem.
Of course not.
It's a joke compared to the.
No. It's not a joke. There is a study which substantiates the usage of it. There is a IIT study which is Supreme Court.
Tanushree, do fog machines and smog machines end Delhi's pollution, even if deployed in large numbers?
No. Let me please complete, Vishnuji, before you take another question. I am saying we have implemented.
No, but I just respectfully to disagree with you. It's not correct. People are watching this program and they believe that a smog machine, and machines which disperse water.
It will be incorrect if you don't let me finish. Please don't take my statement out of context. Let me finish. I am saying that we have taken several short-term measures. We have taken long-term measures, whether it is the EV policy, whether it is the tree transplantation policy, whether it is increasing the green cover of Delhi, whether it is, we've done several things. Now see, one problem, there are several factors, like you rightly pointed out, which contribute to this problem. Now there are 3 huge mounds of garbage, which really ideally should be cleaned by now. It's been 15 years and 1200 crores has been spent on it, but the height has increased. Now, I don't want to make it a blame game. When the last parliamentary committee sat, Gautam Gambhir was seen eating jalebis at Indore. So it is absolutely imperative that all the stakeholders sit together, take this issue seriously.
No, we've been talking about sitting together for years. It's just not happening. It's
I
frustrating.
Don't know why it is not happening. Through your show, I request the BJP.
And I'm sure they'll say yes on the show, but then nothing is still going to happen. We'll be back. If I was to actually repeat a program I've done 5 years ago on this topic and played it out today, no one would be able to tell the difference.
The problem is that BJP will go to any extent to defame us, and one of the issues is this. Now
all right, 1 second. Dr. SCL Gupta, Senior Leader BJP. Yeah. Sir, the fact of the matter is it cannot be Aam Aadmi Party versus the Delhi government. I have done this versus you have done this. As a nation, how does this need to be a priority? Let me give you a couple of small examples. Delhi has 2 ring roads. Beijing has approximately 6+ ring roads. They have started incentivizing the use of bicycles in a massive way. It cannot be done in our national capital, given the traffic that we have. The auto industry is seen to be a major driver of India's economy. In Beijing, they started saying that we will restrict the number of license plates available of cars running on fossil fuels. We cannot even dream of doing that in India. Our auto industry will suffer and economic growth will go down. Unless there is a push at the center, how does this happen?
विष्णु, हमें सोचना पड़ेगा कि आखिर ये पॉल्यूशन हर साल क्यों होता है। 2 चीजें बिल्कुल साफ हैं। एक तो ये है कि हमें इसको मैनेज करने के लिए लॉन्ग टर्म पॉलिसी
जी,
और एक अगर पॉल्यूशन 400 की लेवल पे एक्यूआई हो जाता है उस समय क्या करना। सी द फर्स्ट थिंग इज सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट रोल ऑफ, जैसे अभी कह रही थी सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का रोल है टू मेक ए पॉलिसी एंड प्रोवाइड द पॉलिसी टू द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स। उन्होंने किया, उन्होंने पॉल्यूशन अंडर कंट्रोल के सर्टिफिकेट इशू करने के एक मैंडेटरी प्रोसेस बनाया पूरे कंट्री में और स्पेशली दिल्ली में। मेट्रो रेल का जाल बिछाने की कोशिश करती पूरी कंट्री में। अभी हमारे यहाँ जितने भी जिस तरह से भी आप देखें, प्रमोशन ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिक 2 व्हीलर्स 3 व्हीलर्स, CNG buses, each and everything is in the policy of the central government.
No, but the CNG in Delhi is the largest in the world, or at least it was. Didn't Delhi have the largest?
I'm coming to that point also. लेकिन दिल्ली सरकार ने क्या किया? अभी ये हमारे पास ब्लेम गेम कर रहे हैं। दिल्ली सरकार के पास इस आज की जो पॉल्यूशन है उसका मुख्य वजह क्या है दिल्ली में? ट्रांसपोर्ट, इंडस्ट्रीज. नाउ ट्रांसपोर्ट व्हाट वी आर डूइंग? 6000 बसेस. जब तक पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट को हम डेवलप नहीं करेंगे तब तक लोग बाइसाइकिल में, रोड डेवलप नहीं करेंगे तो बाइसाइकिल में कैसे जाएगा? अगर हमने पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट डेवलप नहीं किया तो पब्लिक लोग अपनी कार में भी जाएंगे, बिकॉज वर्क तो उसे करना है. नाउ दीज आर द थिंग्स द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट शुड डू. 7-8 साल से कर क्या रहे थे आप? ब्लेम गेम के अलावा आप करते क्या?
मतलब सेंटर का कोई रोल नहीं है इसमें?
सेंटर का बहुत रोल है.
हाउ डज नो बट गुप्ता जी, लेट मी आस्क यू अ वेरी बेसिक क्वेश्चन.
अपना काम कर रही, वही मैंने कहा.
गुप्ता जी, लेट मी आस्क यू अ वेरी बेसिक क्वेश्चन. There is a simple economic issue over here, which needs to be addressed. No state government has the funds to actually shut down industries to cater for thousands of jobs which will be lost because they'll be lost because they emit too much. Look at the industries all across Delhi. Who's going to pay for that? When one looks at infrastructure in Delhi, roads, the fact that we cannot build a flyover or an underpass for years, who's going to change that? Can there be no further central assistance? If Beijing can move on to 6, 7, 8
what
roads,
you have seen in the last
peripheral
4-5
roads,
years,
and we are stuck in Delhi, a city which is as large with only 2, then how can the state government do it? Does the state government have a budget of $2.7 billion, which Beijing does in 2017?
Every tower rises from the ground, sir. अगर दिल्ली की रोड सिस्टम को ठीक किया है तो आप 4 साल का इतिहास देखें दिल्ली का. ईस्टर्न पेरिफेरल रोड, अभी ये हाईवे मेरठ तक जो बना, आपने इससे कितना ज्यादा आपका ट्रांसपोर्ट सिस्टम बेटर हुआ है, कितना ठीक हुआ है. इसके बावजूद
पोल्यूशन फिलहाल कम नहीं हुआ है सर. इट्स अ ग्रेट आइडिया, पर फिलहाल पोल्यूशन सर आप खुद देख लीजिए.
आप देखिए आज डीटीसी की बसेज हैं जो खराब हो जाती है सड़क. एक दिन में कम से कम 50 से 60 बसेज 50-60 जगह जाके खड़ी हो जाती. उसकी वजह से कितना ट्रैफिक रुकता है, कितना एमिशन बढ़ता है, चाहे वो कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड का एमिशन हो या नाइट्रस N2O का एमिशन. आई मीन यही तो सब कर रहा है आज 401.
Okay, it's not moving
इसको
fast
रोकने
enough,
का कार्य
sir. It's not moving fast enough. Sir, you and I at this rate, all of us will be back here 15 years later if we are still around. And we'll be talking about this because we all know at this pace, it's not fast enough. It needs much more than Delhi versus Aam Aadmi Party. It needs a national effort with billions of dollars spent.
Of course.
But one second, let me go across to Anil Kumar, principal of DPS Faridabad. Mr. Kumar, as a principal, in other words, as a teacher, does this answer any question that you want, because your interest is your students?
Good evening, Vishnu. Very well said. It is nowhere near to what we are looking at solutions and answers. And unfortunately, we don't know. Nothing has happened. And I'm observing this in the school from 2018, particularly till today. And very important and pertinent points which have come up to, I'll say, which requires immediate attention and can be done also without any, I'll say, slugfest here and there. First of all, let me tell you the component which brings pollution to this particular area. My students are studying this continuously year after year. And very surprisingly, October 15, 2020 and November 2020, 1 month of the lockdown period and 1 month of the all other years, if they are compared,
yes,
you will find that the pollution levels in year 2020 were drastically low compared to now.
Yeah, I know, it was unbelievably clean. It was bizarre.
Absolutely.
On the one hand, people were dying of COVID, but on the other hand, the air out there was wonderful.
Absolutely.
It was
now,
more
come to think of it, we had a double rainbow during that particular year,
yes,
which is very, very surprising. Seeing such kind of natural phenomena within the same Delhi NCR, you could see from a distance of about, say, 300 odd kilometers, the Mount Everest. Now, suddenly, within a span of human activity of a year, we have reached here again. So, what is this irresponsible human activity? This needs to be really addressed first. And what is the scientific basis for it is, we all, I'll say we all boil milk every day and then we drink it, we just bring it down and we see there is a layer of cream on top of it. That is the phenomena which happens year after year during this particular month. The hot air which rises and the cold air from the top comes up and it suspends in this particular area particularly. During this period of time, the wind velocity is hardly about 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers. Meaning by, if I were to take into account the stubble burning, which is being so proclaimed, then if something is burning about 100 kilometers away from me, and it is just merely a kilometer of wind, then it will take at least 4 to 5 days to reach Delhi. By then it will all be settled.
Yeah.
Meaning by, that may not be a very right way of looking at it.
Right.
It is
So just hold that
it-
thought. There are lots of ways of looking at it. I'm running short on time. Dr. Jyoti Gupta, what about your own students? Some schools have already started keeping their children at home, saying don't come to school right now. I don't know if that's necessarily the right solution, but parents are worried and they feel that, you know, they shouldn't expose their children. The learning outcomes of lakhs of children, millions of children in our country were affected by COVID when they couldn't go to school. Now you have reasons like this to hold back children from going back to school. Where is the education?
So it's actually ridiculous that people who are not in education, they take the decisions about the children coming to school or not coming to school. The children have stayed home enough, and fortunately we've opened the schools, reopened the schools this year. I see no reason of keeping the children at home, especially if I talk about my school. We have air purifiers in every class in the school. So we equipped them about 2 years back so that our children could breathe in the clean air. And it's also important to see that if the children are at home, are they actually in the room? Are they actually in the house? Or they are also playing outside, or they are out in the malls, or they are out in the markets, they are partying outside. So who are we trying to protect? So it is better that they come to school. If they have to stay indoors,
Right.
then instead of staying indoors at home, they are indoors in their classrooms, and at least the the curriculum is being transacted.
Sure.
What we could do is restrict their movement of going out in the morning, or their play periods, etc. They could be curtailed to a little extent, where the children can be engaged indoors for a
Right.
little while.
Perhaps there's no
till it
real option,
settles
ma'am,
down.
for the
Yes.
time being. You don't want to
And-
keep them out. Look, I'm running short on time over here, and it's just sad that the discussion doesn't expand, and the discussion doesn't become more than what it is over here, because because air pollution is not a national issue for our political parties. You don't win elections or lose elections at the moment on the basis of air pollution. The numbers are startling, but it doesn't register. And ultimately, you again begin to ask that basic question, do we really value lives in our country in the way that we should? If it comes to air pollution, the answer is no. Unfortunately, we just don't. But let's think about future generations and let's see what we can do, and let us hope that the money that is required to make serious changes, because the science to fix things is not necessarily that complicated, but there needs to be that willpower. Where is that coming from? Out of time on this program, from all of us here, good night.